This is Darius Oliver, and you're listening to 92.1 KXVS, the voice of Stockton.
It's Stockton Alive, and here's your host, the one and only Nate Knott.
Yeah, it's good that I'm the one and only, because it would be a challenge to the world if there was two of me. Between a big mouth and a lot of information in my head that was spewing out information that most people don't want to hear half the time, that would be a problem for the two of us. Anyway, it's great to be back on the air again. Once again, we could say, as we said the last time we were on the air, like I don't know, 2 months ago, that the stories of our demise were greatly exaggerated, or whatever Mark Twain once said. We are still, Stockton Alive is still alive. We just haven't been on the air for a while. We've been in winter hibernation. Well, it was fall hibernation that led into winter hibernation.
Or witness protection.
Yeah, witness protection. So anyway, welcome to our show here at the beautiful studios in downtown Miracle Mile of downtown Stockton with KXVS, located on Bedford Place, right near the Art Lab. And tonight we have a guest, Sarah Gonzalez, who already has developed a rich background with Stockton in this area, likes it, a Pacific grad, so we'll talk to her in just a moment. So I'm curious, since you always are going to interrupt me with sports, we might as well just get a little sports out of the way right away. Are you fairly happy with the NFL playoffs, or are you very disappointed?
Oh, you're talking to me?
Yeah.
No, I actually am. My Rams won, so I'm happy about that. And everything else was predicted, so.
Okay. And I had one of those games where it was a win-win or a lose-lose, depending on how you looked at it.
Yeah.
I can't stand the Seahawks, can't stand the Cowboys.
When did you take the over in the
it's like, okay.
Saints, take the over in the Saints game? Because you
yeah,
lost.
so, and then I was kind of happy. No, I was actually kind of happy the Saints won.
Yeah.
I was thrilled when they won their Super Bowl back in 2009 or whenever it was. Okay, so, we're not going to deal with sports today. This is not a sports show today.
Oh, by the way, Greg Pop is the new voice of the 49ers.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, you didn't know it? Okay.
Who was it? Was it Ted
Robinson?
Yeah, he always comes and goes from the Bay Area scene.
Yeah.
Is he going back to New York or Brooklyn again?
I have no clue.
He's originally from Brooklyn or New York, and he seems to always bounce back and forth to the West Coast.
Yeah.
When he first started with the Giants, was the great '93 season when they brought in Barry Bonds and they won 103 games and did not make the playoffs.
Then he did the Sunday night games because when John Miller went out of town for ESPN.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, we have Sarah Gonzalez, and we'll be talking to her in just a moment. I just want to set up the show a little bit and get some of those things out of the way. We're not going to talk about Vince Scully tonight either. But anyway, we have a lot. I mean this now. This is not a tagline for promotions and ratings and all that stuff. We have a lot of exciting news to talk about in the show about downtown Stockton and greater Stockton. So, but first of all, I want to introduce Sarah Gonzalez, and a graduate of University of Pacific, comes from Texas, lived north of Truckee. So she's been in a lot of different cultures and climates, and now she's on the West Coast or left coast, depending on who you are and how you feel about California. I know I like California personally. And now, of course, the farthest I've ever lived away from California is Las Vegas, Nevada, so I've never been very far away from California. And I had summer vacations in Oregon, and I spent a temporary stint in Reno, Nevada, but basically that's as far as I've ever been living east. And of course, as most of the listeners know, I'm from Chico State, so that's in California. And I'm essentially a Northern Californian, as well as a Stocktonian and a French Campion, or whatever the French Camp people call themselves. So anyway, Sarah, first of all, how did you wind up coming? Well, first of all, where did you live in Texas?
I was born in Gonzales, Texas, and then I moved around a little bit before moving to Northern California.
And they had a city named after you, too.
Right? That's what I try to tell people, but they know better.
You could have said, I'm from the city that's named after my great-grandfather, or some story. You could have made a whole good story out of that. And then I don't remember, were you here in your high school days? Was that the Truckee area? Or
that was Loyalton, California.
Oh, Loyalton. I've heard of it, although I don't think I've actually been there.
It's very small.
Yeah. No, but I have heard of it. So that's interesting. Okay. And so do you have one of those small graduating classes, like 30, 40 people or something?
34.
Wow, 34. There you go. We guessed that one about right. Here, of course, it's about 10 times that.
Right,
a graduating
exactly.
class, here's about 300. The listeners may or may not know I taught at Edison High School for almost 10 years. Ironically, I taught broadcasting there for most of the time, with what was then known as a magnet program, which later became known as desegregation, which came out of them when America tried to do forced busing for integration, which really didn't work well. It turned into magnet. And the reason it's called magnet was the programs were supposed to be so great, they would draw people in like a magnet. In other words, somebody in North Stockton, Hammer Lane would be so excited about the Edison program, they'd go down to Edison. And actually, it did work fairly well for a while. Having said all that, that's a long, long time ago that I was involved with broadcasting at Edison High School. And maybe we might do a whole show about that one day and some of the things we covered back then. I know we used to cover Apollo Nights, which just happened this past weekend at the Bob Hope Theater this past Friday. Anyway, so and tell us your degree in that you got at University of Pacific.
Yes, I attended UOP from 2005, 2009, and then I've just been here ever since, working in downtown. I've worked at a couple of businesses down there and just living in Stockton.
What kind of degree did you earn there while you were there?
Psychology.
Now, just out of curiosity, and I mean this in a totally unknowing, innocent way, did you ever get a job because of the degree in psychology?
I am not. I feel this is a very interesting question. Very good question.
Well, thank you.
Because everybody asks that. I feel that I use my degree every day. However, I am not in a field that it is in demand.
Well, that actually makes a lot of sense. You think the training was good for the background and your ability to relate with people and how you react to things, but it's just that you're not in as a psychologist.
Right. I'm in the service industry, which you may need a degree in psychology to work there.
Yeah,
so.
True. And actually, you mentioned that. I don't think I've ever told it. I may have mentioned this once to the viewers. I'm not sure, or listeners, but I was a graveyard waiter for 3 years of my life. Busboy, host, and waiter.
It can be quite the experience.
And yes, it's very interesting. And I've been in a lot of situations. I've been in public transportation in some form or fashion most of my life. And I've been a school teacher for a good chunk of my life. So when you work in restaurants, you work in public transportation, and you work in restaurants, I've been with the public in everything that I've done.
Definitely.
Never not been with the public. And that's still true now. I still hold all of RTD's public hearings. As many of you know, I work for the San Joaquin Regional Transit District. In fact, have a whole string of public hearings coming up 2 weeks from now in the evening in Tracy, Manteca, Lathrop, and Stockton.
Busy guy.
Yeah. So anyway, here's the good news. It's been said for, this has been said for 20, 30 years. That's how far this goes back for Stockton specifically. It's well known to be true for people who are urban planners and work in urban design and planning and development. If a downtown is going to succeed, be a really vibrant, nice place, there's two things you have to have, ultimately. And Stockton hasn't had either one of these things in any kind of significant way in about 30 years, really longer than probably 40, 50, even more accurate. One, you have to have pedestrians on the sidewalks. A city looks good when there's people walking on the sidewalks. If you look at old photos of Stockton and you look at photos of Stockton now it might actually, the infrastructure may actually look better now with shrubs and trees and median strips that are landscaped and all this wonderful stuff. But that doesn't help much if the sidewalks and streets are empty. That makes them look lonely and desolate. And also subconscious, now here's our psychologist person could maybe chip in on this. In my personal opinion, a lonely street has the unintended effect of looking dangerous if it's empty. I think, especially at nighttime, but also even the daytime. I think people are scared of a place that looks lonely. And downtown hasn't had a lot of pedestrian activity for about 20 years. Downtown used to have, until fairly recently, now it's coming back, a pretty good lunch crowd because we had the jury duty at the courthouse. So we had a fair number of businesses that were open. At one time, what is now known as the Chase Building used to be the American Savings Building. And at that time, it was the world headquarters for a company called American Savings, which shockingly, when you talk to Stocktonians about this, at the time that the Chase Building was the world headquarters of the American Savings and Loan Corporation, that was the largest savings and loans company in the United States.
Wow. And
we were the headquarters with the CEOs and all that stuff. But slowly but surely, and Sarah would probably be a little bit too young to remember this, but we had a terrible crisis in the mid-'80s with the banking industry and savings and loans. And this particular one got bought out by Lincoln. I think it was called Lincoln Financial, and that was one of the ones that had serious scandals and problems. And that went downhill. And then the building started changing hands with different banks and never really recovered. And then we lost all the big shots working there. Now, this is not to disparage the people who are there. It's not at all how I mean this. But you lost the CEOs and the executive vice presidents with their corporate accounts and being able to go out to restaurants and spend a lot of money and buy things. And you wound up with what is now mostly the people who work in there, with the exception of there's a little bit of the city of Stockton in there. We'll mention that. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. But most of the people working there now are close to minimum wage people, and they're phone information operators, or they're people who work in the one bank, Chase. And I don't even remember now if Chase has a traditional bank branch anymore. There is a bank branch there, but I'm not sure if it's manned or if it's with self-help pods that you walk up to. I haven't been. I don't happen to bank with Chase. I bank with the Bank of Stockton, so I don't happen to know. But anyway, here's the whole point of the story we're leading him. Stockton is finally going to get serious infill housing downtown, and I mean legitimate. I don't mean SRO, and I don't mean drug rehab, and I don't mean people who are totally downtrodden and have no money. We're talking about market rate type housing. And this is relatively late-breaking news. I've got this memo here from the Court Company, which is Dan Court, who's been the main developer of downtown Stockton since the early 80s. Now his son Zach Court is with 10 Space Development, which has a huge 15-chunk option, exclusive option to develop 15 blocks of downtown Stockton. And we're going to mention what they're doing in a moment. But here's what here's what the Court Companies just announced to the Downtown Comeback Club, which I'm the facilitator of. That's a breakfast group that meets every week. We're not going to go into that today. We will talk about the Downtown Comeback Club one day. But this is some of the things that are happening, and these are happening fairly soon. This is not like off in the distance, and it is happening. It's not promised; it's happening. The actual construction is underway, and it's actually getting close to conclusion. The Mansion House, and as I was talking to Sarah about this before the show, I believe it's the oldest continuously operated building in Stockton with commercial residential, as in renting or multiple unit type, as opposed to a single detached home. It dates back to 1873. It's on Weber Avenue. It's right in the heart of downtown. It's where the restaurant known as Casa Flores is. The building actually curves on the bottom at the corner of Weber and Hunter. Yes, Weber and Hunter. And it's directly across the street from the new county courthouse and the old county courthouse. It's also kind of adjacent on the other side street to the historic Hotel Stockton. But anyway, there's going to be 26 market rate apartments, and apparently they're already leasing them now and people are snapping them up, so that's great. Then the Trethaway building, which is an adjacent building, they're actually almost physically connected. There's the Argonaut Hotel, there's the Mansion House, which I just mentioned, and then there's the Trethaway building. The Trethaway building is also home of the former Argonaut Hotel. This one also dates back to the 1880s. And it has 12 new live and work loft apartments that are going in there. And that's a really elegant, spectacular, beautiful building on the outside and the inside. It has a very old historic look to it. The Mansion House has been remodeled numerous times over the years and lost its 1873 look, with turrets and alcoves and all that. It had kind of a modernized Art Deco front put on it in the 50s. And that's still kind of what's there now. But it's an elegant old building too. But the Argonaut or Trethaway building is much more Victorian looking, let's say that. And then the Calmaine building. This is a few blocks away, and that's good. By the way, it's not all concentrated in one spot. You do want to build a downtown block by block, but you also don't want to just have 2 blocks that are great, and then things around it not so good, so that you got like the whole of a donut that's great, and the donut's not so good. So 4 blocks away, roughly speaking, the Calmaine building, which is at the corner of Main Street in California, hence the name Calmaine, which had been used fairly recently, temporarily, by the County of San Joaquin and also by charter school, is now going to also be market rate lofts and housing, and there will be 30 of them there. So you have 30 plus 26, which is 56, plus 12, which is 69. And actually and then there's also another small development that puts in some more. This is being done by the Bear Paw Company, by the way. Now, you've heard of them, right? Because you're a younger person. Aren't they like a recreational construction online?
I'm not
Oh, you're
sure.
not familiar?
No.
Well, when Destin gets back, we'll ask if he knows. Other people I've talked to know who Bear Paw is. I think they're a relatively well-known, medium-sized manufacturer of sporting goods, like shoes and boots and things, and maybe sweaters and T-shirts. But anyway, they're the ones apparently behind these projects, but also apparently they're going to also take one of these buildings and do some manufacturing of these sporting goods there or something like that. So that's just all ridiculously good stuff.
That's a lot of housing.
Yes.
A lot.
And it's market rate. Now, the reason we mention market rate, again, I mean it's totally respectful in all ways I talk about everything. But market rate people have regular jobs and regular income, and they can spend money, discretionary money. They're not on a total 100% extremely squeaky tight fixed budget. And they can afford to go out and go to a restaurant or the movie theater. And what you need for a downtown to thrive is little businesses have to feed off regular customers who are there regularly, 4, 5, 6 days a week. That's what the housing element does for downtown. And many of these people are probably not going to buy cars either or have cars, which means they'll take the RTD buses, which will be great. But anyway, the total number of housing that's on this email is 81. And then, like I said, there may be a little bit of manufacturing in all this, too. And I think some of the people that live in one or two of these buildings may actually be involved with the manufacturing. Now, one business, we're going to talk about several new businesses, most of which are restaurants. But one business that we're going to mention is called the Freckled Moon. Well, in fact, those people are living in the mansion house in apparently a nice little one-bedroom, it's a mom and a daughter. I think it's a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment in the rear of the store. This, for those of you who know something about downtown, the Freckled Moon, that's freckles as in the person's face, freckled, with an ED ending, and moon, like the moon. And it's a gift shop, but I'll describe it in a moment. But they actually live in their own apartment behind the store. So that means it's real easy to open up and close, be open whenever they want, be open for special events. We've never really talked about this on the air, but of course my wife and I had a women's boutique in downtown Stockton for 4.5 years. And we used to be open every Bob Hope event. Nighttime, Sunday afternoons, whenever we were open. We were open until 1 a.m. one time on San Joaquin Street, across the street from Xochimilco Restaurant. And 35% of our revenues came from Bob Hope nights. Unfortunately, it's hard to make a profit on a business where 30% of the revenues or 35% of the revenues are on 30 nights a year, which is what we were doing. My greater point, though, is these people living right there, and it's their main business. It'll be easy for them to be open whenever they need or want to be. I think if I remember right, they're Monday through Saturday now, but they're talking seriously about being open on Sunday. If the business grows enough, she'll hire somebody, and they'll eventually be open 7 days a week.
And they'll never be late.
That's right. They'll never be late to open. That's right. Exactly. And if no urgency to close if you're making a deal, because to make the deal, collect the money, let the people walk outdoors, shut the door, and then go back, take 10 steps back to your residence and cook your dinner or whatever. And it's a wonderful, very wonderful, charismatic mom and her daughter, and they're artists, and they themselves are artists, and they're artisans, probably is a better way to put it. And they're very charismatic, fun, young, modern, trendy type people. What they do there, Sarah, is they may have a lot of great little jewelry that's on sale that either they or other local people make by hand in Stockton.
Oh, wow.
And they're selling these things for $15 and $30. So they're selling for the prices almost of the cheap stuff that would be imported like on a container ship out of China or something.
Right.
And it's made right here. And it's very unique and unusual. Obviously, it's unique because you don't have 3,000 of them in 6 different department stores in the same city. So that's one of the new businesses we want to talk about, the Freckled Moon. Now, she has jewelry, she has soaps, and these are handmade soaps. She has scents, bath oils, I think little small arrangements in potted plants, and some other stuff. The potted vase or whatever pot. But anyway, so it's a great little business, and I think she said she opened, I want to say, the Saturday before Thanksgiving, but she said her Christmas was very good. I bought many Christmas presents there. In fact, we're going to
check it out.
Yeah, and I'll explain the Christmas shopping I do every year in downtown Stockton, which always shocks people. I can do Christmas shopping in downtown Stockton. So now, between Sarah and I, we have some experiences with these places. We're going to rattle off several names of several new restaurants that have just opened. And this is also exciting. Now, we don't know they're all going to make it, but, I mean, none of these places existed a year ago. So that's just more new, better things happening in downtown. We've rattled off before several times for the audience, but we'll do it one more time just as a background of this. That in the last year and a half, we gained the Channel Brewing Company, Cast Iron Trading Company,
Deliberation Room.
Deliberation Room, one of my favorite places, and Sarah and I have both actually been there, although I don't think at the same time. And that's now downtown Stockton's #1 happy hour. And there was another place that I can't think of right off the top of my head that also is a restaurant bar type place that opened. But there's a thing called critical mass. When you get enough of it, then people notice it, and it becomes its own selling point. And Miracle Miles happened with the Miracle Mile about 10 years ago, where it started with the Ave and it spread to a couple other places. Next thing you know, you have a destination. You hit this critical mass where there's enough businesses that people like, then all of a sudden, people then want to come there. And once you have people wanting to come somewhere, then you have financial viability. And then you attract investment. So it's just this all wonderful building block thing. But we're going to rattle off the restaurants, and then we'll go back and describe each one a little bit. There's the Mimosa Cafe, which I think is the newest of them all. Or the other one that might be the newest is the Sunshine Hawaiian Barbecue. And then there's Flacco's Tacos. That's spelled, by the way, Flakos, and then tacos. And that's actually in the Cineplex itself, in the downtown Cineplex, in the Jinxed restaurant location that has never quite made it. And then there's the Port City Bar and Grill, which more recently was known as Taps Bar and Grill. And that opened to great fanfare about 2 years ago in April, as I recall. I remember being at the grand opening with Christina Fakazi, the city councilwoman, and some other people. It was a big deal with spotlights and everything. People were dressed in elegant gowns and everything. They made a big deal out of it at the time. It was wonderful. Took special photographs of people with a backdrop. But anyway, it's a really nice place by it. Beautiful infrastructure. It's also part of the Cineplex complex. But anyway, the original business, Taps Bar and Grill, was one of those pay in advance types with the card. You had to load a card with money. And I think that turned a lot of people off. They finally got rid of that. But I don't know if the business ever fully recovered. So we'll see how the Port City Bar and Grill does. How long, Sarah? 2 weeks they've been there? Or?
They had a soft grand opening back in the end of December, and then their grand opening was in January. So
okay.
they've been around. They've been doing a lot of events. They had a cigar night the other night. They had a women's, for the Women's March, they had a big group meetup. They're doing a lot of things. They do karaoke.
Well, that's good. That's probably how you get it going.
Definitely.
You book special events to give people a specific reason to go there. Not only individuals, but you get groups, and then you get multiple purchases. That's how the Deliberation Room has managed to survive its first 2 years. The Deliberation Room now is 2 years old. And they've always had some business. They've never really been empty or anything. But it took them being the first legitimate bar and pub and lounge in downtown Stockton in literally 20-something years. The last time we had anything like that was over by the Stockton Record. And now I've gone blank on the name. It'll come back to me. It had an Irish name. Not O'Hallahan's, but it'll come back to me. But anyway, it closed mysteriously. It had a good business, but it closed in 1996 or 7 for no particular reason anyone's ever been able to find out. And but it was an Irish pub, by the way, and they had beer and pizza and sandwiches. And actually the food was actually a separate annex to the bar, but they were open and joined together. And I can remember going to have a great time, being packed and everything, and all of a sudden it was closed one day, and it never came back. So this is great to have this. But anyway, the major point we're making, though, is when these places open up, people aren't just going to flock into them downtown, especially downtown. And it's on California Street, which when at the time it was being rebuilt, California Street was dead as a doormat and had been for 20-plus years. But now with the Deliberation Room, you've also got a place called across the street, which I don't know much about. It's called Roro's, which is a barbecue. Then just to the left down across the street is a really beautiful, high-class, really significantly upscale look, and it is upscale, by the way. It doesn't just look at it, it is upscale. Beauty salon called Unico, and it's from the floor ground to the top. It's all one big, huge glass facade. It's a very large building, and it looks like something you'd see in the San Francisco financial district. And they've been very successful. And then you have Trail Coffee. Now, Trail Coffee is not as new as the others, but it's only been in that location for about a year and a half. And Trail Coffee is on the corner of California Street and Main Street. The deliberation room is between Weber Avenue and California Street. I'm sorry, between Weber Avenue and Main Street on California Street. This Cal Main building we're talking about of significance is going to be right across the street from the Trail Coffee Company. So that it, with its 30 lofts, can be pouring people right into the Trail Coffee and the deliberation room. And right around the corner, favorite, she's not new, but right around the corner on Weber Avenue is Irma's, Mexican-American restaurant of great quality. She just refurbished her restaurant, and that restaurant was once the home of the Leno's Birdcage restaurant, which is Mexican-American, and was at Sears. That just closed about a year ago, but it had been there for 20-something years. And then there's one last place to mention. There's the Downtowner Cafe, which is on Sutter Street in the historic Elks building next to the Subway sandwich. One place that most people, even if they don't know downtown too well, because it's a chain, it's got the familiar sign, most people are aware that downtown Stockton has a Subway sandwich, which seems to be doing okay. They're open 7 days a week. They're one of the few places open on a Sunday in downtown. And the other new place that's relatively new that I couldn't remember to mention earlier is Papa Herb's, the so-called fusion, trendy, modern Filipino restaurant. Kind of, sort of, high-scale, fast food Filipino. Now, one of the traditional Filipino restaurants downtown, which we haven't mentioned here because it's not new, but it's very, very good. They had an award-winning buffet, but I think they've gone back to menu lunches now, is the Red Orchids Cafe on Market Street. And next to it is Maria's Cafe, which is a long-standing traditional Mexican restaurant that relocated from another part of downtown and relocated to a place that was once famous as I think it was Chinese, might have been Filipino, Louis Sampam's. This is before your time, you wouldn't know this one. But it's where Maria's is now. Now, we'll just talk about the new restaurants a little bit. Mimosa Cafe is located on El Dorado Street at the corner of Market. It's on El Dorado at the corner of Market. Many of you will recall, if you've driven through downtown without ever having gone in there, it was once known as the Red Brick or the Brick House. It had tried for several times under several ownerships to be a weekend nightclub. And it never quite ever totally made it. People were a little scared to go there and had some image problems. But now it's an everyday restaurant. It's called Mimosas. It is kind of a slant on Mexican food, but they have hamburgers and BLTs and everything else. My experience with them is they serve you a very large meal. By downtown standards, it's a bit expensive, but they do give you a huge meal. Now, I know you're aware somewhat with the Hawaiian barbecue. Have you been in the Hawaiian barbecue?
I haven't been there yet, but I've heard good things.
And what I've heard is they serve a huge meal. And I've also heard, and they apparently have a half-size portion you can order. And I've also heard from people that it's actually packed. Now, this restaurant had previously, if you took the lineage back a few years, it was more recently called, now I'm going blank on what the most recent, it was called La Puerta, I believe was the most recent name. I'm sorry, Puerta Vallarta. And then, before that, was called the Arizona Cafe, and it had a big crocodile thing on it, on the sign. I'm not quite sure how those two went together. It's sort of like a crocodile crawling through cactus or something was the sign. Before that, it was once a chain restaurant. I can't remember the name of the chain that was famous for pies, and I'm not talking about Marie Callender's. There's another one, Baker Square. That used to be a Baker Square. And then way back in its original days, it opened in 1974 as a Sambo's restaurant. Now, Sambo's now is ancient history. But everyone I'm sure has heard of Denny's. Well, Sambo's used to be a national competitor to Denny's with about the same menu, same style of service, and everything else. So that's what that cafe location has been. Of course, the Sunshine Hawaiian Barbecue is located adjacent to the Howard Johnson Motor Hotel. That's the only motor hotel in downtown Stockton. Or I guess maybe it's probably considered more of a motel. And it does have a lobby, and it has a swimming pool, and it has a lounge area. I don't mean a lounge as in a bar. I mean an area, kind of a garden area where you can lounge around. I have not stayed there in many years, but I do know it's the one major legitimate motel in the immediate downtown area. Now, of course, a few blocks away is a university hotel. I mentioned Dobo Cafe. I didn't describe it. Dobo Cafe is a small mom and pop Filipino style restaurant that is probably and it's on San Joaquin Street, just a half a block south of Main Street and the courthouse block. And it's just a half a block around the corner from the Bob Hope Theater. But it's a little mom and pop restaurant, and the woman actually literally cooks the most spectacular tri-tip and shish kebab almost every day right on the sidewalk, and then mixes it with rice and other things and vegetables. It's all fresh, and it's very, very good. The only thing is it's very small, and I think she's cut 2 tables and 5 chairs inside, and she has a little patio table, little tiny patio table sitting on the sidewalk, but wonderful, mouth-watering food, great soups and salads. I don't know about the Port City Bar and Grill's restaurant or the menu. Have you been inside of that?
I know that they redid a lot of the menu. They have some of the same things. I've noticed they put a sign out, and it's a salad bar from like 11 to 2.
Oh, I like that idea.
Pizza and salad.
Okay.
Yeah, they do that. And then I know that they just added a bunch of stuff to their menu. It used to be just like pizza, burgers, and wings. They still have all of that.
Yeah.
But now they do like soups and
right.
salads and wings and ribs and all
Well,
kinds
that's good.
of stuff.
At one time, they actually had steak in there when it first opened at Taps Bar and Grill. I
Right.
don't think they kept that on the menu, but it was really good at one time. Very slow, though. That was one of the problems with Taps Bar and Grill. They were very, very slow. And then with having to put the money on the card in advance to buy something, everything, all the transactions at that time had to go through the card. And if they got busy, it was hard to get them to take time to put money on the card so you could actually order something. That was a real challenge. The idea, and why it's called Taps, and we have literally a similar business across the street here on the Miracle Mile with a similar name. Did you go in there? Did you ever use the credit? I
did not.
But you could take the card and tap a spigot.
Mm-hmm.
There was like 10 tables, and each table had its own beer
Tap.
Thank you. And you could go up and tap it. And then as you poured, you could pour as much as you wanted to in the glass. You helped yourself to refrigerated, kind of frozen type glass or chilled glass. And it would measure, as you were pouring it with the tap, it would measure how much you were pouring. And then you paid, it would automatically bill your card to the amount that you poured.
So it's a clever concept.
It was a nice concept. It's just, it's kind of
Maybe
hard
the
to let someone always have money
execution's
of yours,
difficult.
though. And then, but anyway, it was very fancy and nice looking. It still is, and I will check it out real soon. Speaking of buffets, I mentioned Red Orchids had one, but I think they're all menu now. I just did this today. The Deliberation Room has a very simple buffet on Mondays. It's a pizza and Caesar salad buffet. All you can eat for $10.99. And you have 4 choices of, it's flatbread pizza, by the way. 4 choices of flatbread pizza, all you can eat, and Caesar salad, all you can eat. And they have great, now the Deliberation Room, by the way, has great salads, great soups, excellent chili, some panini sandwiches that are very good, and flatbread pizza. And the price on any of those is $7 to $10. I don't think anything there costs over $9.99 on the menu, if I remember right. The Monday buffet, by the way, is $10.99. So, and I haven't been to Flacco's Tacos yet. I'll check them out here real soon. And again, I believe I'll be going to Sunshine Hawaiian Barbecue tomorrow because I have part of the day off tomorrow. Okay, so having said all that, now we've given you all the exciting news about downtown, we described all the new restaurants. Remember, this is all new now, by the way. What we just talked about didn't exist 2 years ago. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 places there. And prior to that was the 5 places we mentioned earlier that included Papa Herbs and those. That's 12 new businesses that are food, restaurant, lounge, and bar in downtown in a space of 2.5 years. That's a pretty significant growth. And they all populate blocks that used to be next to dead as far as like economic vitality. Okay, so now here goes my favorite subject. I do my Christmas shopping in downtown Stockton. Even Sarah's probably astonished at that thought.
That sounds like a challenge.
It is a bit of a challenge. You have to have understanding people accepting the gifts. No, but actually it works. And it's not that I always do all of it downtown, but I do most of it downtown. But this is how I go about it. It's a little limited, yes. But if you actually walk around and look, there are more places where you can buy something than people realize.
Well, the Freckled Moon sounds like a really interesting place to get
yes.
some gifts.
And that's brand new. Again, just opened in November. And I did get several gifts there, by the way, between soap, creams, jewelry, and the other little bits of art. By the way, they have art in there from local artists, including one of them who works at this radio station. But anyway, so the point is that they're supportive of local business, and I think also they cut the overhead dramatically, which is how they can keep the price of the gifts down. And it's very unique because nobody else makes any of this stuff, and it is high quality too, by the way. But so you've got unique, handmade, local jewelry there, and other stuff as we just mentioned. And also, you just walk in and buy it. It takes 5 minutes. There's no walking through the mall or typing up an order online. You just walk in there and pay cash or credit card, and you're done in 5-10 minutes. It's not even hard with the parking to do that. You can find a meter spot, and for as little as maybe 50 cents, you can get in there and shop and get out and still get the car on the cheapest rate available on the meter without any real traffic or problems.
If there's a meter there.
Yes.
If they haven't been cut down.
I'm glad you mentioned that, 'cause that's not on the agenda, but we should mention that. The meters are coming in February.
Oh, my goodness.
They did a test run. The meters all got cut off because people found they could cut them off, dump them, crack them open, and take the money. Now, as with any kind of parasite, that's got a short life to it, though. Eventually, you've taken all the meters out, dumped all the money, and there's nothing left. Well, the city of Stockton realized not only was that a problem, but they also didn't really want to, and this makes perfect sense, did not want to spend the money to replace 50 and 60-year-old meters with the same kind of meter setup where you had to put coins in and other things, and where you couldn't renew it from a distance. So the city of Stockton's new meters are the block type. We have one digital meter on a block, or half of a block, or the side of a block. And you enter digitally, usually using your phone, by the way, your license plate on your car.
Interesting.
So you're not paying by the space per se. You're paying for your car that is parked somewhere near that meter. And the beautiful thing with this, and they had upgraded the old meters a little bit, and some of the meters did have a phone app, the more recently, I should say.
Right.
But this meter, this type of meter, you can definitely pay for it from a remote distance. You can be sitting in a meeting or something, or you get stuck window shopping at the Freckled Moon. You can pick up your phone, you can order another 25 or 30 minutes.
I noticed one of those over by Trail Coffee.
Yes. And what they did is they did a pilot project with maybe 10 of those meters on, I don't know, 10 blocks. Well, it turns out they work pretty well. The revenues are coming in. The customers are actually pretty okay with it. I think those meters are also in some of the city parking lots now, the outdoor parking lots. Okay. I think are also used with that type of a system. Well, I don't know if it's the same. It may not be the same physical device, but you do pay by license plate now on those two.
They had to do something. That wasn't the first time those meters had been cut off. I think that
Right.
was the second or third time.
Yeah, no, they had. They had gone through them several times, and the meters were sold. They couldn't even get replacement parts. Actually, they put new digital insides in quite a few of them, but then those were getting cut off and stolen. You don't want to keep paying for new meters that aren't going to last.
Right.
And
It's a
these new
waste.
ones, I guess, are very indestructible, apparently. So anyway, if I understand it right, 100 of them are going to start being installed in early February.
Wow.
So you may have heard this for the first time at KXVS, Stockton Alive. All caps with alive, followed by an exclamation mark, by the way. I think most people will welcome that because then there'll be some order and stability in parking. The problem, I know everyone says you should have free parking downtown. Well, they have that at the mall. They have that at the Miracle Mile. The trouble with free parking in an urban downtown area is people will park and they won't ever leave the space. And then no one else who drives downtown can get a spot. But they're also going to price the parking meters in such a way is to try to get people to use the garages. We have nice parking garages downtown. They're pretty handy and convenient. You only have to walk 3 or 4 blocks from a Stockton parking garage to almost anywhere in downtown. And so their hope is that once you have the enforcement and people paying on the street, that many of them will just go in and drive and park their car in the parking garage. And you can get validated on the parking in the garage, which you can't for the street meters. Up to an hour, that is. You can get, or half hour, something like that. Okay, Christmas shopping. So, and I ride the bus and walk, so I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. I walked to work this morning, rode the bus out here, and I'll find my way home. So, I could go to a place, as you mentioned, and go to the Freckled Moon. I can also go, there's actually one last regular, full-service, quality jewelry store in downtown Stockton on San Joaquin Street, Guillermo's Jewelers. He not only sells you real jewelry, gold and silver and stones and all that, He repairs jewelry. I believe he's the only repair person in the entire Central Valley. I believe that, and we've known, my wife and I have known these people for some time. Our boutique used to be right down the street from them. They tell us their people are referred to them, believe it or not, from the Bay Area, from Sacramento, and other places, because there just aren't repair jewelry stores around anymore.
No, there aren't.
And so they don't only sell real jewelry, they repair it. So that's the place. It is called Guillermo's Jewelers. It's on San Joaquin Street. It's right. They're just really close next door to dry cleaners. I think it's called the High Grade Dry Cleaners, and they're pretty close. They're on San Joaquin, pretty close to the intersection of Market Street, which is where the big Human Services Agency building is, and the Veterans Annex building is just about across the street from them. They're also across the street from Sochi Milko on San Joaquin Street. But anyway, I can go shopping there and get real jewelry and quality stuff, which I've done several times. Then, if you want to get gifts for people that you don't know that well, and and it's not legitimate to spend a lot of money and give them fancy jewelry, especially if you don't know them that well, and you don't want their husband or boyfriend to be jealous of what you did, there are 3 or 4 places sell gift jewelry or costume jewelry downtown. 2 of them specifically on Main Street. One's called the Stockton Wig Shop, and I don't remember I think the other one is called the Disco something or other place, which used to be a Mexican-American music store and business called Disco Azteca. Betty, our previous host, will remember Disco Azteca. But the place is now essentially a wig and jewelry shop. And they kept the name Disco something. And the 2 places are right next to each other, actually. But you can get some, if you just need to get some quick gifts for a distant relative or one of your colleagues at work, and you don't want to spend too much money, you can get a reasonably good-looking piece of costume jewelry there for $6 to $10, and people like it. I know because I've given out to people. Mm-hmm. Now, here's my most unique Christmas gift, Sarah. Let's see how this one grabs you.
Okay.
And then she can psychoanalyze whether I'm a good person here or wicked or really weird. In one of these times, now I work a lot of unusual hours, and believe it or not, the end of the year is a big deal for transit with a lot of paperwork. So it's also hard for me to find the time to go Christmas shopping, and I don't like to do it online. I want to support businesses. So having said that, pressed on time, deadlines take me practically right up to Christmas, and I don't like to go online, and I don't have time to get to the mall, basically. So you get real creative. Now, there used to be some clothing stores downtown, but they're kind of gone right now. There's some men's clothing stores, but there's really no women's clothing stores, and the place called Factory to You just closed up, which is a very low-end department store. But one time, the light bulb went on, and I went to the restaurant supply store. Have you ever noticed that? There's a full-fledged restaurant supply store in downtown Stockton.
No.
This is my favorite Christmas gift of all time. And it's one that grew on my wife. She wasn't too thrilled when she saw it, but I went in there because it's a real restaurant supply now.
And where is this located?
It's on, oh, thank you for saying that. It's on Weber Avenue at the corner of Stanislaus. And it's
Weber
a pretty
and
big
Stanislaus.
building, by the way. It's across street from a place called the Church of Rock Good Hope something, which is closed all the time practically. It used to be Betty and Felice's Cafe at one time, a great place. By the way, I should mention there's a great cafe that we didn't mention at all, just to throw a shout out to them. And that's that you got the Greek American Cafe on San Joaquin Street. And of course now I went blank on their name too. It'll come to me in just a moment. But where's Dustin when you need him? No, but anyway, seriously, I'll remember. Yassiani is the name of the place. A wonderful restaurant downtown. I don't want to leave them out and not mention them. And it's a beautiful sit-down restaurant, and even have a full bar in there too. Of course, nowadays you can't normally get anything to drink at lunchtime if you're working, but they do have all that. One time, by the way, Sarah, they used to do fashion shows on Friday nights during happy hour.
At Yassiani?
Yes, kind of like lingerie and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, fancy.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, but all that kind of died away. Maybe it'll come back now. Getting back to my point, though, so I head down to the restaurant supply store. I figured I'll find something that's nice. Now, kitchen appliances and things aren't the most exciting things at Christmas time, and they're not anniversary gifts.
I don't know. I like kitchen supplies.
Well, I like that.
I think that's a good thing to give.
I gave my wife a kitchen appliance one time when we were fairly newlyweds, and she frowned mightily at me. So, but that's nice. So I'm glad to hear that. So having said that, I walked in and immediately I found what I wanted. A little basket. It's the kind of basket you put the cloth thing It's the kind of basket where in the old days, it's a wicker basket. It's not plastic, by the way. It has metal, stainless steel handles and stuff on it. It's the kind of thing that you used to put a wax paper in and put French fries in like in a bowling alley.
Uh-huh.
And it's the kind of thing you put nachos and chips in now, probably. I think the whole point of it is to put chips in with nacho buckets on the endpoints. But I bought that. I bought a little teapot. And then the cutest thing of all, I don't know if any of you, have you ever stayed ever got room service ever in a hotel?
Yes.
You ever get one of those little coffee pots? It's a little bulb on the bottom, and a little plastic.
Just little they have miniature everything.
Yeah.
Miniature pots, miniature
I bought
kitchens.
the little coffee pot.
Nice.
And I bought some other stuff too, but she wasn't thrilled when she saw it. But here's the point. I serve her breakfast in bed every weekend using the restaurant room service. And so this gift has kept on giving for, I don't know, I think it's 5 years now. And so it started a whole new tradition in our household.
That would make up for it.
And
I can understand now why you said the gift had grown on her.
Yes. That statement by itself could mean a lot of stuff. Okay, real quickly, as we get to the end of the show. One thing about downtown Stockton, even during its somewhat economically depressed years, you still have a lot of major offices and buildings and organizations that are very important. That's never gone away entirely. Now you have Visit Stockton, which is the Convention and Visitors Bureau. You've got the Downtown Stockton Alliance. You've got the County Courthouse. You still have the main branch of the Bank of Stockton. And you got various things like that. Well, they all give out free calendars. And Bank of Stockton is the most famous of the calendar. They've been doing this since 1994 when Douglas Eberhard started it. Douglas Eberhard just recently died on November 8th, 2018. He's the last of the original old kind of older generation, second or third generation Eberhards. His son now has taken over. But they do the historic Bank of Stockton calendar, and it never fails. When I put it up there, it clicks to the other camera. It's on Sarah now. It'll come back, though. But what makes the Bank of Stockton calendar great is that
There it is.
they have historic photos going back to the original days of the Bank of Stockton, which dates back to 1867. The Bank of Stockton's 151 years old. Thank you. And we're going to start scanning these things in and upgrade this show in the near future. But they take these beautiful, really high-quality black and white photographs done on glass plates, as photography used to be done, and they digitally colorize them. And every month has one of these. Look at these women dresses, for example. And you'll see people in the snow. You'll see them camping in Yosemite Park. You'll see a business. One of them here is a business in Stockton on Sutter Street, about 1880-something. And that's how every month is done. Now, we also have that's the union. We have the Western Farm Workers Nonprofit Association downtown. They put out a spectacular calendar. Once again, Sarah, you're great, but you're not the calendar. But anyway, this one has painted murals on every page. Just like what you see here, every month has that. Then you have Visit Stockton, which is our Visitor and Convention Bureau. What they have in here is photographs of things happening in Stockton, but on the pages inside, the events that are regularly scheduled all year long are in there. So if you just open it up, you know what's coming among the regularly scheduled things. And then this has nothing to do with downtown. It's my APTA calendar, American Public Transit Association. Of all these, though, I like the Stockton ones better.
I noticed Restaurant Week is in here.
Yes, that's right.
Thank
you for mentioning that. Restaurant Week, 10th Annual Restaurant Week starts on January 18th.
Yes.
Goes to January 27th. That's Friday through a Sunday. So, Dustin, are we running low on time here?
Oh, yeah, we are.
I hope you enjoyed the show since you actually were a true listener today.
I was.
We didn't bug you for helping us out with information and trying to remember things that my slightly deteriorating brain can't remember short-term memories like it used to. But it's been fun. We're thrilled to have Sarah Gonzalez with us.
Thank you for having me.
She has some radio experience. She likes KXVS, so she may become one of our many volunteer people. Remember, KXVS is a volunteer operation. We have some very talented people here. We have people with radio experience and television experience here, but this is a nonprofit volunteer organization. And yes, we're still building up to the point where we're going to have radio FM transmitting tower and actually be on the public airwaves at some point, covering the greater Stockton metropolitan area. Mm-hmm. But for now, we are live on streaming, which is great because you have digital quality. You get to see us both, hear us, and see us. And we thank Sarah Gonzalez for being a guest. We think she'll be back with us in the future. And is the train about to leave the station there with our little cute theme? There it goes. Now, we call this a train because it reminds us of a steam engine chugging out of the station. And I'm a big railroad person, as many people know. I missed the Orchard Supply calendar.
This has been Stockton Alive with the one and only Nate Knott. For more information on The Voice Stockton, go to thevoiceofstockton.org. Good night.